Welcome to this update video in which we're gonna show you a little bit how we treat our tomatoes in the outdoors. We also want to take you along through one of our harvesting sessions that we have and talk a little bit about what we currently harvest. We also took care about the areas behind our house where we have our fruit trees. And we started with the plum harvest for this year as well in that particular area. We are also finally in the last steps of finishing up our cooling room and everything around it. And there has been an upgrade to the greenhouse where we raise our tomatoes. As we have a new system for the tomatoes this year, it was time to take care about them. This system consists of a string which supports the tomato plant itself and a hook on the end of the string which then gets hung into the steel wire which runs on top of it. On the hook there is multiple meters of rope left, which we use to make the tomato run along the construction. So you always get a little bit more rope and move the hook to the side. This makes all the tomatoes lean towards one direction and they're actually gonna be laying on the floor at a certain point. But then still the tomatoes have a height where you can harvest them. As this particular breed of tomato last year was 7 meters long, we estimate that we can lay them down for 10 meters maybe this year. We also had to do this in both patches where we had those tomatoes and substructure or construction that holds them up. And we also took away the lower leaves so that they won't be touching the ground when the main stem of the plant is touching the ground. Although we had a very wet June, the tomatoes in those particular rows look pretty good already. And here you can see the work that we've done to that particular row and will continue to do in the coming weeks. Not all of our tomatoes have this climbing aid. Some of them have rather traditional climbing aids which we had gotten with the farm. So we still have to take care about them and take away the leaves at the bottom to prohibit that any moisture could build up there and lead to sicknesses. One kind of vegetable that doesn't really perform that well this year are our beans. Fortunately for us, we had a lot of beds planted, but now we have to harvest also a lot of them. When in last year we sometimes got up to 9 kilograms to 10 kilograms for one of those beds, this year it rather looks like 3 to 4 kilograms. This may be also due to the fact that some of those beans are still very small, as in June they haven't grown much, as June was very wet. Also we start those harvest sessions now in the evening the day before we make the main harvest, as otherwise in the morning it is way too hot to do the harvest, as the sun hits this area very early. Something that hadn't worked too great in the past but works pretty well this year are our carrots, and we are pretty pleased how they look. At least in that areas where they start growing, they are really nice, big and super tasteful. And here's a short collection of vegetables that finally start to get ripen, and we will harvest them soon. This is what our harvest Fridays look like. In the morning we fill up our electric tuk-tuk with boxes which we fill with our vegetables and then put them on the table where we weigh them, document out of which bed we have them, and over the day or usually the morning the boxes do fill up with all the vegetables that we need for our clients' wishes. And this is then a normal picture what we see at the end of such a day. A table filled with veggie boxes. We then deliver them up to the house where we separate them into smaller boxes due to the wishes of our clients, cool them and deliver them the next day morning. One of the frequently returning tasks is the mowing of our fruit tree hill or little forest. This is a 3,500 square meter big plot, and the area you see here is the part which is the most straight one. Everything else has quite a steep angle to it. But we do have a mower which makes the job very easy, although some of the trees stand so close together that we cannot use it there. We start with this process at the top of the hill and work our way down. As we found out, for us, this is the best workflow, which works rather easy. And after a half day's work, this is what it looks like. The hay is stacked at a certain points and a somewhat cutted area. I tried to use the drone to get the shots to make you a little bit more understand of how steep the hill here is, and also tried to fly between the trees, which the drone didn't really like that much, but it gives you a little bit of an overview how steep this hill is and how close or narrow some of those trees stand together. In the lower third of our fruit garden, we have a very dense bush area. Here we have nettles and brambles, which are wild and grow very dense. Here we cannot use our mower, but we have an electronic bush cutter with a metal blade, which we're using here to cut all of it down. And here, a little bit of a different angle, you can see that most of those brambles are already gone, but still it's a heavy task to get the rest of them. This is one of many tasks which have to happen while we're doing the farming, as taking care and maintaining the land is one of the most important jobs next to planting and taking care about the plants. And here I'll try to make a short flyover that you can see where this is located and get a rough feeling for where and how big it is. And if you wonder now what we do with all the hay, we collect it in big bags, which are 1 cubic meter big, drag them down the hill, put them on our tuk-tuk and deliver them to our compost area. All of these grass clippings will eventually end up on our compost and turn in the future into compost as well, and will be ending up on our beds. And like always, we have super motivated helping hands who see this more than the workout as a job. So it was done in just one session, very fastly. There is also a second reason behind mowing the grass around our fruit garden, and that is preparing the fruit season. We're gonna pick here the plums, the early plums that we have, and this is way easier to do when the grass is freshly cut. First, we'll pick all the plums which are already on the ground. We also take away the, so to say, bad plums, as we don't want them to further decompose in the garden here, as they will attract insects that then bite into the fresh and well plums as well. So we put those on the compost. In the next step, we use one of the old sheets that we had or that we got with the farm and lay them out underneath the plum trees. We use 2 different kind of sheets as we have them or got them with the farm as well. And then we will start to shake the trees so that we get all the rest plums off, or at least those plums which are already far enough in their process to be harvested. And as I'm currently not really practicing my rock climbing a lot, I try to get every excuse to climb on a tree and do something stupid. After this, we just have to grab the corners and pull the sheet together, and at the lowest point all the fruits that we want will accumulate, and we just can sort them through and put them into a bath, which brings out the worms and makes the plum stems somewhat worm-free. Something else that was continuing while we were taking care about the farm and all the other stuff that you already have seen is our new cooling room. Some of the areas needed some touch-up plaster as they have formed cracks, or former walls that were standing there had some leftovers which we had to get rid of. And then we used some paint and started painting the ceiling and all the other areas. And I have to say, a little paint makes a huge difference to a room like this. It automatically looks nicer, brighter, and more clean. I really like it. Especially here with the before and after photos, you see the huge difference what a little paint can do. In the last years, we have been using some strings to keep up the tomatoes in our greenhouse. We will change this year as we are not too pleased with the strings, as the tomato then has an ultimate height until which it can grow. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of us putting in the new cables and those tomato carriers or support structures. It's the same that we use on the field, but here is the current view how it looks, and it works very good. The tomatoes now are already laying like 30 to 50 centimeters on the ground. We have cut away all the leaves, as mentioned before, as we do on the field as well. And we can stack those tomatoes for a way longer period inside the greenhouse then. And they should become rather long plants, hopefully. And here's a shot from before and after we put up the new steel cables. I hope it is better to see what we've done. Fortunately, the footage got lost and it explains a little bit better what we are doing here, if not from the video shots before. And with that, we are at the end of this episode. We are doing a lot of other stuff which happens behind the scenes, but we don't have time to film all of it as farming currently occupies most of our time. So I wish you well and see you soon.